So Adriana Diaz is rated 24-44 in USATT, and quite frankly, I think that's a bit of an underrating. I wouldn't be surprised if after this tournament she jumps up. Her highest world ranking was 80 in the world in June. Currently, she's world ranked number 95 at 16 years old. Yume Takahashi, 23 on the receive. She's 23 years old. So Takahashi plays for Sanritsu in Kanagawa in Japan, coached by Kinji Kondo. And the coach in the corner for Adriana is her dad, a former legend of table tennis as well in Puerto Rico. Fast pace there from Takahashi. It's nice to see the Puerto Rican flag on screen. It's not so often. It's like catching a new Pokemon, sort of, you know? Haven't seen this one in a little while. So the receive game, a little bit of trouble.
It's so nice to see, countries who are not very big names in the sport of table tennis come up. Just proves the point that it's such a global sport. We have 222 nations now. Look at that amazing backhand from Takahashi.
Yeah, no, 222 is a lot of nations, but that backhand felt like it could have been 222 kilometers per hour. I work in miles mostly, so could be a little bit off. But yeah, Takahashi just showing how threatening she can be from near the table from a power standpoint. Ooh, reaction, just sticks the racket out. The receive was long. That's the first big loop we've seen from Adriana Diaz. Step around and she's reaching there, gets it in the air. Quick apology, not sure if it caught the top of the net on the way, but a great reaction. Backhand punch, stronger receive. Diaz with her second point so far this match. Well placed, that is the middle. That is what it looks like when you found your opponent's middle. When they don't know where to go, they have to move out of the way to try to find the shot.
And it was not too powerful, it was just so well placed.
Right, just powerful enough, and the placement was the main key, you said it. It's a completely different Adriana Diaz. We got 3 points in a row after some of the short game was trouble for her. Her service placement, a little bit more effective here with the topspin serves. Oh, tries to go around the net. This is what set up point of the year for Fan Jiandong with Simone Gauzy, a net ball that comes back under the clamp for a roller on the table. Finally a missed shot, and this breaks the streak. Diaz had 4 in a row from down 1-5.
And I would actually call that as her signature stroke, that backhand that she hits down the line.
That punching shot. I heard it was in the highlights from her match earlier after lobbing, coming running in to just blitz the table and put it away down the line.
Amazing shot from Adriana Diaz. Stepping around, hitting inside out on the backhand court. Look at that. Brilliantly executed.
Service errors are going to come up. You know, it's always interesting when players who don't know the sport very well see it and they go, what, I can do that. I can come out there and miss a serve. But how many times do they serve it fast and long, low to the net, perfectly placed? I mean, there's just so much pressure on the server to make it just right that sometimes you're going to miss. And that's the risk you have to take. It's better than serving high or too long. Might as well lose the point. Either way, right? I think I worded that not the best way, but yeah. Look at this, what a turnaround. 9-7 for Adriana Diaz. She was down 1-5. Mentally, that's got to be tough for Takahashi to deal with.
9-7.
Nice to see the player concede, honor the let. Had that earlier with Ho Ying Chao and Wang Wei. It was quite interesting. And now 3 game points for Adriana Diaz. What a turnaround. I mean, it was game 1, but still waking up just a little bit later in game 1. Nearly halfway through it. Almost after the spinny shot deep on the table to the middle, goes for that signature backhand punch. She has so much feeling too. You know, we played earlier, Adriana and I, and she hit a roller around the net that I couldn't believe. And she just, for her, it was like, yeah, I tried it and I knew it was going to happen. I planned that. But the receive, much like in the beginning, deceptive serve from Takahashi is trouble for Diaz, and it earns a third ball attack there that was just too much to get back. We talked about how strong the defensive play, the lobbing of Adriana Diaz is.
Makes her a complete player.
That's right. Little surprise there. Seemed like she knew she wanted to go forehand a little earlier, but still ball placed on the middle. She was off the table a bit, and now it's deuce in game one. Top of the net just out. She's right there in case, though. So breaks the streak. She had 10-7, right?
Mm-hmm.
So another game point, fourth one for Diaz. Look at this point. Testing every angle she can, looking for the middle, changing the pace, softening it up. Outstanding turnaround, Takahashi taking advantage. She's so smooth on those backhands from the back of the table. Talk about rhythm. Look at her rhythm in this replay. And the finishing forehand was just so fast. As good of a lobber as Adriana Diaz is, these flat hit shots are just crushing. They're so difficult to follow the path of the ball, and they're played right down the middle too.
Credit to Takahashi. She just totally caught Diaz off guard.
And what a game one. Talk about roller coaster plot twist. It comes back. Yume Takahashi 13-11 after being down 7-10 and being up 5-1 in the beginning. Wow. So this is going to be exciting, I think. You know, we know that Adriana Diaz has the heart and the passion. We saw it when she came back from down 2-3 in the last round. So exciting to watch.
And we're also live on Facebook. Keep sending in your comments and questions. We have one comment from Juan Pablo Liaro. Adriana has to focus more on her serve to get control of the game and use it as her advantage.
Oh, I see. Juan Pablo Liando. Okay. So a little bit more of a statement, an opinion than a question.
Mm-hmm. See a lot of vamos here for Adriana.
Definitely a lot of fans, her followers on Instagram. You know, in the Spanish-speaking world, one of the strongest players there is. Actually, she might be the strongest. I said that only with caution because I hadn't looked, but from memory, she's way up there. Yeah, don't forget to send in your questions if you're curious about anything you want to know. I'll tell you a little bit about how these players got here in just a moment. Either way, I'm very curious to see if Adriana Diaz is able, when she does back off the table to lob, just keep it deep on the table and kicking. A little bit off the top of the net, but still hangs in there for one. First point back to Takahashi. Takahashi has such a strong forehand, but still her backhand is such a short, efficient stroke.
Yeah, it's like both complement each other so well. A strong forehand and a backhand where she can consistently keep the balls back.
That's right. And this is common. You see a lot of players don't have the strength to finish a point unless it's given to them or they're up near the table with that backhand. Just enough to support your biggest weapon. And even covering the middle there, the way she brought in that elbow to still use the forehand and generate some real power.
Wide on Adriana's forehand. It was a side spin counter loop.
This takes me back to the last match we saw Adriana Diaz play in the quarterfinal. These backhand-to-backhand rallies, just testing out the pace, changing it up. She's quite creative. She actually draws on herself. Just mistimes that ball. See a little frustration out there.
That was a brilliant change in the pace. First was a bit faster, second was more spinny. slower.
Yeah, quite impressed with Takahashi's game. From a creativity standpoint to power, I mean, so many different factors out here that make her quite a threat, and she's up 5-1 like she was in game one. There it is, backhand punches all over the court and sprays it out to the forehand side with a little bit of side spin. Same pattern as in game one. She had 4 points in a row from here. Last time when she was down 1-5. But look at this, finally finds the opportunity. Ooh, even wider.
Finally, she's getting her rhythm back, and her favorite stroke, that punch, that backhand punch down the line.
Now, it might not be easy to tell, but Adriana Diaz is actually quite tall, despite being 16 years old. And I guess you might say that's a full-grown woman at 16. But what are you thinking right now, Neha, about that last point?
Yeah, where was she hiding those side spin receive that she did? It was so effective, totally changed the game.
Again, and this time a little less side spin, but more under, almost a chop from over the table. This is the creativity, too. Variation in the receive game.
And this seems like a repeat of the previous game where she was down 1-5 and then she made it 5-5 and then again the same thing.
Perfectly placed, excellent length for a tomahawk serve. He's varying it up. This is a traditional tomahawk serve. Ooh, second bounce on the table, perfect length. Sometimes just side spin is enough. You know, players expect there to be a little bit of top spin on it. You and I have talked so many times about how gritty the table is in a great way. The ball doesn't slide. It's going to be an honest bounce time and time again, but a bit of backspin goes a long way, or a short way, you could say.
With the players executing the best of the best serves.
A few nets in that rally favor Takahashi. You know, it's interesting to see the backhand from the cover. She's behind the table by quite a bit. Adriana Diaz trying to come back in. You can see from this side angle. When she finally asserts herself and puts the pressure on, it still comes back. Outstanding pace from both. The serve receive this time was changed up. Takahashi realized the ball was more likely to stay short, goes for the long push. And then the spinny forehand, not a very fast one, but still spinny, was punched back quickly by Takahashi.
8-7.
Wow, that's the power. That's a serve we haven't seen yet, the windshield wiper serve from the forehand position. Don't know if we'll be able to see the serve. Sometimes the player can drop the racket down as they're contacting it to put underspin on it. Still, Takahashi not fooled on the receive. There's that signature backhand, this time a little less punch and more side spin on it. Still fast enough to cause some trouble, but bending away out of the comfort zone for Takahashi. Now, all this creativity adds to sort of less rhythm. You know what I mean? Someone who plays like a robot, in quotes, plays the same shot every time. A creative player breaks the rhythm of the opponent, makes it much tougher to sort of catch on and get into their rhythm. There's Mel Diaz in the front row in the back, watching closely. You'll be able to see the Diaz family again. Dad in the corner, and the coach in corner. Not too often we see that, and this changes everything. The perspective here from down at the table. It looked like a good opening opportunity for Takahashi to hit that unreturnable forehand. But Diaz keeps it deep on the table. Now has 2 game points, and the tomahawk serve, she's going to try to take it. A little off the top of the net, quick apology, but Takahashi saves a game point. I think this is a great call personally. Adriana Diaz's father and coach saying, let's make sure we take this game.
Yeah, I mean, a 1-1 and a 2-0 lead. There's a big difference between that, and it was a great call from her coach. Probably discussing what the best serve is. She's done a lot of those tomahawk serves. Probably it's time to change.
I think that's exactly right. That's what he's saying as well. It looked like from the body language there was conversation about the pendulum serve, which we saw before. Now, it's interesting. When you find a serve that works, it's definitely fine to favor it. But if you serve it 5 times in a row, which I think is what we've seen, and they're discussing the tomahawk right now, it's just interesting. You know, it gives the opponent too much of a chance to get familiar with it, to get comfortable with it.
Exactly, and that is why in the game of table tennis you need to have as many weapons as you can. You cannot reveal all your ones at the same time.
Yeah, when I think about the best servers in table tennis, you know, in the women's game, Seo Won, the chopper from Korea, is very difficult for people to receive. There are a few others as well. Ding Ning, of course, with the reverse tomahawks that are so versatile. But also in the men's game, like Per Garel from Sweden, his serves are varied so subtly. They come from a similar place, but they're, you know, he's got about 3 options from one very similar motion and then a few others. So we'll see. It looks like we're going to see a pendulum serve here. Still 1 game point left for Diaz. Heavy underspin and a third ball heavy topspin loop. Not the fastest shot in the world, but low to the net and loaded with spin. Diaz takes the game. It's for her first game out here, and they're split at 22 points each. So tied up 1 game apiece. Diaz always makes it exciting for us, doesn't she?
Absolutely. That timeout definitely worked well, and it was a high five from the coach to the player.
Now, her coach, her father, this man right here on screen, is traveling the world with Adriana Diaz. Both of the Diaz sisters, Mel and Adriana, have been playing on the world tour, but Adriana Diaz especially, again, she's 16 years old, currently world ranked number 95. Not easy to do, quite an impressive feat. I think in the Hopes program, the ITTF Hopes program, she was one of the chosen ones. Sponsorship program, I know ITTF is doing a lot to develop international players.
Yeah, and this support from family, you know, that's what it takes to, either it's from your government, either it's from your company that sponsors you, or it's the family support. And if all these things, these 3 things combine, you know, all you have to do is focus on your game and then forget about the rest of the things. So Adriana Diaz is definitely at a very good spot in life with that amazing family support.
The first time we saw it, the return forehand attack, Diaz gets back from the table enough when she realized that she left the ball too high. And it's very easy. This was a counting your chickens moment. You think you might have won the point with the top of the net, but not Adriana Diaz. She stays right in there, and the next ball's kicking deep on the table. Fast footwork from the center of the table. There's not a big opening down the forehand line. You know, if you think about the difference in power on the forehand smashes that we've seen from Takahashi versus that one after the lob with topspin, it completely took away her power. A high kicking ball at the baseline of the table, when you lob it like that, yeah, I played Samson Dubina for my 2nd time in 2 days in this tournament, and he is a strong man. He is a hard hitter, but if you lob it deep on the table, he can't finish the point because it drives him so far from the net. Not easily anyway. And the same goes for Takahashi against Diaz.
Yeah, and that's the mark of a good player. You know, you need to understand which is the right ball to, you know, even if it's a high, but is it closer to the net or is it far away? Is it coming onto your body? How much spin does it have? You know, to consider all these factors in deciding if you need to hit it hard or not.
And speaking of hitting it hard, that backhand was a rocket backhand from Adriana Diaz, showing us one more weapon. Not the punch down the line, but just a ripping spinny shot. And since the ball went out of play, umpire is checking it to make sure it's in fine condition to play with. Heavy topspin, well calibrated as Takahashi closes the racket and counters it back. This comes with experience, being so comfortable to close on such a spinny ball. Played aggressively. Now the punch shot down the line, while it is a signature of Adriana Diaz, it's so impressive that she can make such a high percentage. because with little topspin, it's the short side of the table, which means the net appears to be higher or blocking more of it. Deep push. This reminds me of when she started changing up her receives in game 2 with that little side spin and the deeper, heavy push.
So impressive to see how she can alternate in the touch of the receiving, you know. Sometimes it's very aggressive, sometimes it's slow and soft touch.
But this time it's power with side spin back down out to the forehand side. Head's shaking rather with disbelief in the crowd. How does she make the shot so many times? But she's on the balls of her feet, keeps the weight forward. A little bit of side spin, forces Takahashi's shot, it just carries it out wide. Back off the table again when it's deep and it's got topspin. Takahashi's power just gets sucked dry. I mean, she's still a powerful player, but anybody, we talked about it, right? It's so tough to show power when you're far from the net and the ball's driving you even deeper away from the table. Heavy topspin, long serve attempted, top of the net and out. So 3 points in a row here for Adriana Diaz. Her reaction so focused, hits the top of the net, moves in. This is one of the reasons it's so important to be light on your feet, to be ready to move in any moment. Still get the ball, keep it in play after a net shot. Flat hit goes long. Diaz turning from the middle to take that forehand, quite impressive.
And I think there were 6 points in a row for Diaz.
That's right, from 4-4. And look at this, we've got 6 game points for the young Puerto Rican. And there's that shot, the racket head up, brings the wrist around and under the ball. 11-4. So far, all games have been decided by a narrow margin of 2 points, but not that last one, 7 points in the favor of Adriana Diaz. The pride of the Americas, the women's side of the game, pride of Puerto Rico. So Neha, any good questions there jumping out off the Facebook page?
Not questions, but we see so much support for Diaz here.
We love that support.
Absolutely.
Always good.
Yeah, we have the Puerto Rican flag flying on the emojis.
So match-wise, though, we appreciate your support. If you have any questions, let us know if there's something you want to address. Service-wise, I think it's quite interesting. You know, the timeout was called in Game 2 when it was 10-9 for Adriana Diaz. And we saw, I like trying to read the body language of the coach if we can't hear what's being said, but also moving the placement on the table. Service, not just the spin, but keeping it unpredictable, forces Takahashi to move more, maybe to get her out of position. I think we've seen so many backhand punch shots work effectively for Diaz. But one nice thing is that when she backs off the table a little bit on the forehand side, she's still keeping topspin on it. She knows how to keep the pressure on from far away.
Yeah, and in the second game, she had a few errors in that backhand punch shot down the line, but in the third game, she had better percentage.
Almost back on the table. A net ball for a net ball. Takahashi with a merciless flat hit back goes just long. There's the touch from over the table. Very short stroke. She knows she has to pick a side, start moving to what's most likely, and keep the racket head high. Beautiful change of pace. Such confidence in the feeling of Diaz. Oh, interesting. There was the fingernail spin.
Yeah.
Warned to please play, not to stall too long between points. You can hear the grunt on the opening topspin shot from Adriana Diaz. This is when you're really using the legs and the core to load the ball with spin to get low, to make sure you can get as much pressure on your opponent even though you don't have an aggressive opening attack. Wow, this is the most powerful point I've seen with Takahashi taking the lobs. A little bit lower in the lobbing game, but still deep on the table. Let's watch one more time. Diaz with the topspin. That ball just a little bit too shallow. About a foot inside the baseline. Oh, smothering the ball again, blitzing the table. Diaz with the timing. Carpe diem, seizes the day, and that's what she does. She seizes the opportunity out here. This is the perfect camera angle to really see what Adriana Diaz is doing.
And she was already a step back from the table. Somehow she just knew that that's how the game is gonna progress. She was ready for it.
Now for the first time, it's a 5-1 lead for Adriana Diaz. She's leading in games 2-1. She came back in game 2 from being down 1-5 to win. I think from a mental focus standpoint, what are you thinking, Neha?
I'm thinking that Adriana Diaz has changed a bit of a strategy. In the last 2 points, she's taken a step back, and because Takahashi is now more consistent, from both backhand and forehand, there are long rallies. So Adriana knows that because she is very strong from when she steps back, so she can compensate for both.
So this is that lobbing the fishing game deep on the table with topspin. Takahashi, we saw earlier when it was a little too shallow on the table, took advantage, played it inside out. But Diaz confident far from the table.
Takahashi definitely looks a bit confused.
Light push, floats it back. Overlifted by Takahashi. She's got the power, we know that.
At this point, it seems like Adriana has answers to whatever Takahashi has to offer.
In the receive game, Adriana Diaz has been quite creative. Puzzled Takahashi out there, trying to focus, find her answers. Just a little bit behind the ball, tried to lean forward, but from this camera angle, it's a little tougher to tell the distance from the table. Just by body language, though, it felt like she was a bit far behind. More wrist on this one, tucks away. It was more clear that the ball was wide to the backhand. Diaz very flexible and loose on that shot. Just missing wide. Well placed on the body. To hit it that hard that you can find your opponent's middle when she's that far from the table shows real strength from Takahashi. He's trying to read the body language for a second to see if it caught an edge, but it was the side spin from Takahashi, much like Diaz had done before. Ooh! The reverse tomahawk.
That was a boy move from her.
Very bold. So rare to see. We talked about pulling out these risky serves, the rare serves, if they're less practiced. I don't know if I'd ever seen Adriana Diaz do that before. She took the point. 4 game points before, now down to 3. 1 saved by Takahashi.
There's sometimes just a slight change makes a lot of difference. That's what she did.
Power once again to the short side of the table. Takahashi saving her 2nd game point. No timeouts left for Adriana Diaz, but she does have the towel break. Just a quick use of the towel. Wow, this is getting tight. Service-wise, you have to imagine, what is it that Adriana Diaz is going to do here? If she could serve it with heavy topspin, half long to the backhand side. Oh, an edge ball, a break. That is just a hair from being off the table long, and a hair longer than being clean on the table for a 3rd ball. What a break for Takahashi. 4 game points saved. 5 in a row. Look at this, what a roller coaster we're going through. The tables have been turned, Neha.
That is the beauty of table tennis. I mean, at any point, you just cannot expect. The game can just totally take a different turn.
And the game continues. Adriana Diaz saving her first game point despite having 4 before. I think we have a long list of the beauties of table tennis. That'd be a fun post. You should write that.
Good to consider.
Just too long.
And that thump, probably she's not too happy with what she did.
Some frustration out there. I think she handles her frustration quite well. She did come back in game 2. Ooh, once again keeping it alive. You know, the point before for Diaz, it wasn't the same as her lobs where she keeps it deep with topspin. There just wasn't as much spin on it because it was more of a reaction shot, which is part of the reason Takahashi could come in with so much power early. Heavy, heavy topspin. Diaz with the backhand trying to get on top of it, just doesn't close enough. One more game point for Takahashi. Look at the kick on that serve, it just jumps past.
Placed it in the middle. You could actually see the ball turning. So brilliantly done.
Oh, that jump and the timing. She thought she knew where it was going to go, but Takahashi was in for a surprise. 4th deuce point this game. Oh, beautiful points! Look at this. All over, we see several forehand loops from off the table. Adriana Diaz working the forehand into the game after a soft fishing shot first. And the big backhand still didn't finish the point. Look at the backhand punch, but the forehand jumps on it to the last square corner of the table. Square inch in the corner. Her dad was on her feet, on his feet rather, not hers, of course. Look at this, saves it from 10-6. Loses 4 points in a row, but 15-13 to go up 3-1. What a performance from the 16-year-old Puerto Rican Adriana Diaz.
Such a close game. Leading 5-1 and then 10-6, 10-10. This is ups and downs in the games, like the best you can see probably. And it's nice that she took a step back after 5-1, and then she knows that she's comfortable when she's even stepped back from the table, and she's won a lot of points with her lobs and then finishing off the rally with the backhand punch.
Right, even deep off the table, the fishing game, she does seem comfortable. This is a player with a lot of feeling and confidence. Don't know if we've gotten any interesting questions coming in on the Facebook Live feed. Looking for some interesting questions.
We have a lot of support for Adriana here from Puerto Rico.
Well, how about this? Let's tell people how she got here. Adriana Diaz, in her opening round, played Takako Nagao from Japan. And that was a very tight 11-9 in the 7th win. After that, it was Yui Odono. That was the match. Well, I guess that was the 11-9 in the 7th match that we saw. It was 4-1 over Takako Nagao. So seeded in quite far into the tournament, Adriana Diaz in the women's singles. Now up 3-1 with the serve to start. So much kick on that serve. It was the one that last time Takahashi tried to take with her backhand that jumped past the racket at deuce. And again, the movement on that ball. Takahashi's used to getting the advantage from taking the ball right off the bounce. But if she can see it come off the table long, she might have a better, more effective opening with the forehand. Problem is Adriana Diaz has been quite comfortable with the block down the line on the backhand side. Lobbing game, ball carries just a little bit long. Comfortable for a few shots. We've seen overall, I think, while I recall 1 point specifically that was won by lobbing, Adriana Diaz has still lost the majority of the points where she starts lobbing. Does give you a false sense of reality when you do win a point after a lot of shots lobbing. You feel like, ooh, I've got a good skill here. The person struggled in this point, you know?
Yeah, but a point is a point, you know?
And that being
Yeah.
said, if you lose 80 to 90% of the lobbing points, even though you remember that one, it is a false sense of reality. The statistics do not lie on that. This is the money ball of table tennis.
Exactly.
It's what Ariel Shing's father did. Michael would sit in the corner and just say, hey, look, this is how you won the points. You're giving me a look like you didn't know this. He would write down the statistics. He would say, here's how many points you won doing this. Here's how many points you won doing this. And let Ariel make the decisions for herself.
Wow, that's a very interesting way to give coaching in between the game.
It's an engineer's way to coach. And it's a great way. It's a very pragmatic, solution-oriented. Here's what's working, here's what's not. Simple.
And imagine if we get the technology where we have that rapidly, those stats for the coaches to give it to the players.
Wow, the backhand there. Talking about giving it to a player. Look at Adriana Diaz. She's giving it to the barriers on this. Steps in, that's the wrist. Looking like Samsonov out there with that shot. And that's more than a lob. That is a shot from near the hip. That is a counterattack from way off the table. Diaz making a great shot out of a ball played into the body. Still, it's tied up here at 4 points each. So much power. Again, the timing. It's funny, we've seen a lot of relatively fast shots off the backhand from Diaz, but more rally shots. The last 2 or 3 points, I guess, those last 2 backhands we've seen have just been point finishing backhands.
And it's so nice to see the way she can judge the ball and make the decision that she needs to play a fast or a controlled one. Here's a timeout from Takahashi. Brilliantly called timeout at 4-6 to see what they're discussing. Probably discussing what serves the best for her because that's where she is.
You know, it was interesting to see the strategy attempts. You know, I talked about how Takahashi maybe might want to try stepping around to take the forehand off a serve, watching it come in a little bit longer because of the kick on Adriana's serve. The last time I recall her trying that, I mean, it was just so close to the back edge of the table. It was trouble for her, but she really is looking for that solution.
I see Adriana's dad telling her to probably attempt those receives with the side spin that she was doing earlier in the game, and suddenly we don't see those anymore.
Right, this is another thing for a coach to keep track of. When you do something creative, what was most effective? Just to really do their best to keep track so that you moving forward, you know, play your best game. And for Diaz, that's right. Every time we've seen her do that, I guess the percentages have just been much higher in those creative backhand receives. So we'll see what she brings out here. I actually heard there's a term for that in the internet. Players calling it the strawberry.
I wonder why strawberry.
Well, you've got the banana on the other side. You come around the inside of the ball to make a shape like a banana. In Japan, they say chiquita. So if you're going the other way with the wrist, around the outside of the ball, there's your strawberry.
Worked well, strawberry.
A little bit deeper on the table. So Diaz using her father's advice quite well. Now with a 4-point lead and 2 serves here. Little help from the top of the net. The ball's not going to come down on the table.
Diaz with an apology. That's a great camera angle.
That's the one when people were asking, what's that on the side of the net there? That's that camera angle. And now 6 game points for Adriana Diaz to earn herself a place in the final. Mel Diaz clapping in the front row there. Fingers crossed. Not a time to soften up. We'll see. A little bit different in the strategy there. Both players have shown us comebacks from way down in the starts of games. And the grunts back and forth. It's 16-year-old Adriana Diaz of Puerto Rico moving on to the women's singles final, 11-5. What a way to pull it off. It's going to be a thrilling final. We've got Saki Tashiro of Japan and Adriana Diaz